You know that feeling when you're learning German, you know all the right words, but when you say them out loud, something just sounds a little off? Yeah, you're definitely not alone. Well, in this explainer, we're going to unlock the two secret keys to making your German sound so much more natural. We're talking about word stress and sentence melody.
So, here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll talk about why this rhythm stuff even matters. Then, we'll dive into the basic rules for the German beat and the melody, and we'll wrap it all up with a little practice session to put everything together. Sound good? Let's get started.
All right, so what are stress and intonation? I know, they sound like super technical, complicated terms, but honestly, they're not. Just think of them as the rhythm and the melody of a language. It's that simple.
And getting these right is absolutely crucial. Seriously, it's the difference between sounding like you're reading from a textbook and sounding like a real person. Nailing this stuff will make you so much easier to understand, and it'll help you connect way better with native speakers.
Okay, let's jump into our first key, the basic beat you'll find in most German words. And I've got some really good news for you. It's actually way simpler than you probably think. Okay, and this rule right here, it is so powerful. This one simple little rule covers a massive number of German words. So if you only remember one thing about word stress today, make it this one.
Listen really closely as I say these words. Can you hear how that first part gets a little extra punch? I'll say them slowly and then at a normal speed. Ready? Vater, Vater, Mutter, Mutter. Great! Now it's your turn. Repeat after me. Vater, Mutter, Lehrer, Woche, Bruder. Excellent job.
Okay, time for a little quiz. I'm going to say the word for children in two different ways. Which one follows the rule we just learned? Listen carefully now. Is it Kinder or is it Kinder? Which one sounds right to you?
Yes, you got it, the first one. The stress is on the first syllable, Kinder. So here's a fantastic tip for you. Whenever you're in doubt with a new German word, just try stressing that first part. You'll be right most of the time. Of course, it wouldn't be a real language if it didn't have a few exceptions, right? So let's look at the two most common times when that beat changes. But don't you worry, they're actually pretty logical. Okay, so think of these little prefixes like be, gay, as a quiet little intro. They're like a little drum roll just before the main event. They don't get the stress themselves. All the emphasis comes right after them, on the main part, the root of the word.
Can you hear that? It's not bekommen, it's bekommen. The beat lands on the main part. It's not verstehen, it's verstehen. Okay, let's practice this. Listen again and then repeat after me. Bekommen, gefallen, erzählen, verstehen.
Now, German, just like English, loves to borrow words from other languages, especially from French and English. And when it does that, it usually keeps the original pronunciation, and that includes the rhythm.
These might feel a little more familiar to you, right? The main thing here is not to memorize a new rule. Just be aware that when you see a word that looks like it's from another language, that first syllable rule might not apply. Fantastic! You are doing great with word stress. So now let's move on to our second key, the sentence melody, or what we call intonation. First up, we're going to learn the sound of a simple, everyday statement.
Now, this is a super clear signal to the person you're talking to. That falling sound at the end basically says, I'm stating a fact, and now I'm done with my thought. It's just like putting a period at the end of a sentence, but you're doing it with your voice.
Listen to my voice here. Ich komme aus Deutschland. Did you hear how my voice dropped on Deutschland? That falling tone is exactly what we're talking about. Okay, now repeat after me and really feel your voice go down at the end. Ich komme aus Deutschland.
And here's another perfect example of that. The melody just falls. Try it out with me. Heute ist Montag. You hear that little drop? That right there is the sound of a German statement. Okay, so if statements fall at the end, what do you think yes or no questions do? You can probably guess, right? Let's get to our final rule and find out.
This rising melody is pretty much the universal sign for a question. It's how your listener knows that you're asking for a simple yes or no answer. It's really the spoken version of a question mark.
Hear how my voice goes up on Berlin? Wohnst du in Berlin? That little lift at the very end completely changes it from a statement into a question. Okay, now it's your turn. Make your voice go up at the end. Wohnst du in Berlin?
Now this slide really shows you the power of melody.
The words are almost exactly the same, but the intonation completely changes the meaning. Listen to the difference. First, the statement, Du kommst heute. My voice falls. Now, the question, Kommst du heute? My voice rises. See? The melody is everything.
That was fantastic work. You now have the fundamental keys to German pronunciation. Let's do a super quick review and a little mini quiz, just to make sure all these new ideas really stick in your mind. And here it is, all on one slide. These are your 4 main rules for German rhythm and melody. If you can master these, you are well on your way to sounding much, much more natural.
Okay, take a look at this word verkaufen. Do you see that little prefix ver at the beginning? That's our big clue. So is the stress on ver or on cow? You got it. It's on cow, because ver is one of those weak, unstressed prefixes, verkaufen. All right, for our last one, listen carefully to how I say this sentence. Is my voice going up or is it going down at the end? Listen. Kommst du morgen? It rises. The melody goes up, and that means it's a yes or no question. Excellent job! So the most important thing you can do now is just practice. Seriously, don't be shy. You can always replay this explainer if you need a little refresher. Say the examples out loud, and really start to listen for this beat and this melody whenever you hear native speakers. You can do this.